At the end of May 2021, we were surprised to see the F units and passenger cars sitting at Outer Station. Even more surprising is there's a crew around and the locomotives were fired up not long after we arrived. No trips were announced with the Fs on this day, and no other rail fans were gathered around. We just so happened to luck into them while driving around the area after catching NRFF 15 minutes earlier at Mohrsville. If you watched the previous video featuring the fast freight SD50 leading NRFF, you'll note the consist is reversed with 3057 leading north. It's a Saturday, which traditionally was the day they'd spin the locomotive consist in Pittston, hence 5019 leading north on our Sunday chase the very next day. As explained in the NRFF video, which I highly recommend viewing if you haven't already, the North Reading Fast Freight no longer runs on Saturdays. Today's 34-car train is right on time at 2:23 in the afternoon on the 40-mile-per-hour main line just 7 miles above the NS interchange, which is just below Outer Station. Outer Station was completed in 2017 to shift the base of the passenger excursions from Port Clinton to the south end of the railroad, complete with plenty of parking along the busy Route 61. Steam, diesel, and RDC excursions regularly originate from this location. On this particular morning, the RDCs left at 9 a.m. sharp, bound for Jim Thorpe with station stops at Port Clinton and Tamaqua on the way. We'll also see them returning later in the evening. The replica of J Tower that once stood in Lemoyne on the Pennsylvania Railroad, the original now preserved at Strasburg, may not be the most fitting along the former Reading just outside of the namesake city, though the second bridge in the background once carried Penn's Schuylkill branch over the main line near Reading's busy Beltline Junction, now the interchange between NS and R&N. The train departs at 3:30 p.m. sharp after CEO Andy Muller Jr. boards the train, riding in his usual position on the rear of the Black Diamond. If these sound like GP38s, that's because they essentially are. When Norfolk Southern acquired the Fs for their business train in 2006, they stripped the internals, replacing the prime mover and generator with parts from scrapped GP38-2s. Also complete with new control stands, the only original thing about them is much of their outward appearance. At Port Clinton, the train rolls through the new temporary signal-only interlocking at Pulpit between the car and diesel shops, named after the nearby Pulpit Rock. It was placed into service in February of 21, marking the end of Rule 261 CTC territory between North Reading and the Form D controlled tracks within Port Clinton. CTC resumes on the main line north of Port Clinton, and perhaps someday the short half-mile of DCS will be eliminated. It was here that we learned from another rail fan they're stopping to pick up family heading for dinner at the Tamaqua Station Restaurant. The conductor counts down the length for the quick stop as Andy and his dog watch from their perch to greet the boarding passengers. We get ahead above Molino for the famed shot across the field at Miller's Crossing. Blue Mountain rises in the background as the train continues north to Tamaqua. It'll be a quick chase up routes 895 and 443, stopping for shots at Hecla and Zaner's along the way. At Tamaqua, we jump out of the car with just enough time to capture them pulling over Spruce Street and dropping the clear signal on their way into town. With varying track speeds of 45 and 30 between here and Outer Station, they complete the 36-mile trip in a little under an hour and 15 minutes, arriving before 4:45. As Andy Muller and his guests spend the next 2 hours enjoying dinner at the restaurant, the day is just starting for the crew of the OCS. With everyone off the train, the crew must get out of the way for the RDCs returning south. The conductor rides the rear of the Black Diamond, equipped with a small whistle tooting 3 short blasts to signify they're backing up, and again with a crossing sequence for the busy Route 209. The King Coal Express placard on the Black Diamond pays homage to the Reading's famous passenger train from Philadelphia to Shamokin, updated to reflect key towns on the present-day Reading and Northern system. Car 1 was purchased by the Reading and Northern in 1996, originally built for railroad tycoon Jay Gould as a gift for his daughter shortly before his death in 1889. Black Diamond is the nickname for the clean-burning hard coal found in the region that quickly became a source of wealth in the 1800s. The Lehigh Valley even coined the slogan, "The Route of the Black Diamond," as one of the many railroads building into the anthracite region. The Valley even dubbed its flagship passenger train the Black Diamond between New York City and Buffalo, which ran in conjunction with the Reading Railroad to Philadelphia under the same name, operating a connection at Bethlehem. Engineer Hunter Richardson slowly backs the train onto the Greenwood runner, giving a friendly wave to the camera. The Fs powered Norfolk Southern's business train from 2007 until 2019, when it was decided best to include them in a mass selling of assets among the 700 locomotives retired or sold. R&N scooped up F9A 270 and F7B 275 in late 2019, adapting the existing tuxedo scheme by touching up the bottom half of the locomotives. The colors are reminiscent of the Lehigh and New England Railroad, whose route ran along the east side of Tamaqua to the coal deposits around Lansford and Panther Creek. The black diamond on the nose of the locomotive signifies Reading and Northern's premier status as an anthracite carrier in the 21st century. Along with the red pinstripe, many rail fans have dubbed this the Marlboro scheme. 20 minutes later, the RDCs roll up for their station stop, continuing south a short while later. With the rail diesel cars out of the way, the OCS will head up the mountain to Hawks to turn the train around for the trip back home. Hawks was the former juncture of Reading's Catawissa and Tamanen branches, and a connection crossing at grade to the western terminus of the Central Railroad of New Jersey's Nesquehoning branch. The CNJ also turned and ran parallel the Reading to Tamanen, forming what looks like a Y, though it was not used as such. Instead, the junction with the Reading allowed CNJ access to their isolated Treskel branch to mines in Aldenreed above McAdoo. Each railroad had a yard here, which along with the Tamanen branch and tower that guarded the interlocking are all gone today. During Conrail, the Catawissa branch fell into disuse above East Monoy Junction, removed entirely above Lofty. The CNJ was ripped out between Tamanen to Hawks with the Nesquehoning Valley line sold to Carbon County in 1981. It wasn't until 1987, when the Schuylkill Carbon County Rail Transport Authority opened the Lofty connection, that the present-day Hawks started to take shape. State grant money allowed the building of a near 2-mile-long connection from the Reading-Catawissa branch at Hazleton Junction to the new Delano Junction on the Lehigh Valley-Hazleton branch, as well as connecting the former CNJ to the Catawissa branch near Hawks at the new Mauch Chunk Junction. Later in the 90s, when Reading and Northern resumed operations of these lines, a switch was installed at Hawks with a track laid across where the tower once stood and along the former CNJ yard connecting to the CNS at a new switch now known as Carbon, thus completing the Y. R&N installed CTC here in 2016 to better govern moves through this busy junction. The several-minute walk from Bernhard Road was worth witnessing the Fs passing the Reading-inspired tri-light signals as they proceed north onto the Nesquehoning branch, now a part of R&N's main line to Pittston. About 15 minutes later, they re-emerge from the Catawissa side on the way back south to Tamaqua. Back at Tamaqua, the train rest shut down in front of the station, which was abandoned and burned in the early 80s. Nonprofit Tamaqua Station formed in the 90s to raise funds that led to eventual restoration completed in 2004. The new platform addition was recently finished in September of 2020, giving full life to the 143-year-old station that is even featured in the Postal Service's historic railroad stamp sheets released in March 2023. A signal is already displayed for their return home, Approach Limited, which is a decorative aspect for the time being since this is still 30-mile-per-hour track. Perhaps someday, if an interlocking is installed at Middle Yard below town, track speed on Main 1 will be raised to satisfy the limited speed aspect of 40 for freight and 45 for passenger. The Fs get underway just before 7, passing the old Reading bracket mast that was salvaged from the Catawissa branch north of Hawks. It was erected at QA during the CTC upgrades in fall of 2016, now guarding the main and movements off of the Greenwood Runner. From here, it'll be another quick chase back down routes 443 and 895 to Port Clinton, stopping for shots at Zaner's, New Ringgold, and Miller's Crossing. The bridge in the foreground once carried the original road and cart path through the farmstead at Miller's Crossing before Route 895 was built on the hill behind us. While they were making their brief stop in Port Clinton, I set up at Muller where I couldn't help but notice these wildflowers. Shades of white and purple are a staple across the Pennsylvania countryside at the end of every May, setting the scene for the Fs dropping the signal on another Reading-era bracket mast. As CEO Andy Muller Jr. rides through his namesake interlocking and into the dusk toward North Reading, I am already planning my return here the next day to chase NRFF all the way up the railroad. I've linked that video in the description, and thanks for watching. I hope you subscribe for more upcoming adventures on the Reading and Northern.